You think this is another apology, but watch closely because this moment changes everything. Cody Brown walks in believing a few words can repair years of damage, but he is not prepared for what happens next because this time Christine is not alone, and the question no one has dared to ask finally lands, and when it does, the entire narrative starts to collapse. Stay with me because what unfolds next is not about forgiveness, it is about exposure. And once the truth enters the room, there is no turning back. There's a moment when an apology stops being about healing and starts being about control. And that moment is exactly where we find ourselves now, because what Cody Brown calls an apology tour feels less like reconciliation and more like a carefully staged performance designed to rewrite history before the audience can remember what actually happened. This is the point where viewers lean forward, not because they believe him, but because they sense something is about to crack. And this stop on the tour is different because Christine is not alone this time. She is steady, she is grounded, and standing beside her is someone who is no longer willing to let the narrative slide quietly into another excuse. And from the second Cody walks in, you can feel the shift, because the confidence he carried into previous conversations is gone, replaced with hesitation, measured words, and a visible uncertainty that signals he knows he is no longer in control of the room. He opens with familiar language, talking about anger, talking about struggle, talking about wanting healing, but never once naming the damage, never once sitting in the weight of the choices that fractured the family. And this is where the suspense tightens, because viewers recognize this pattern. They know this rhythm of apology, where accountability is avoided and emotions are reframed to protect the speaker rather than the people who were hurt. Christine listens calmly, offering grace, not because she owes it, but because she has already moved past the place where his words could destabilize her. And that alone is unsettling for someone who once relied on emotional chaos to assert authority. And then it happens, the comment that reframes everything, the subtle attempt to center himself in Christine's happiness, suggesting that her current life exists because of his failure. And in that moment, the air changes, because this is not humility, this is ownership disguised as reflection, and the camera does not need to linger to capture the shift. Discomfort is already there, and then David enters the conversation, not loudly, not aggressively, but with presence and restraint. And that is what makes it dangerous, because this is not a confrontation that can be dismissed as hostility. This is calm, measured, and rooted in lived experience. And suddenly, Cody is no longer speaking to someone seeking closure. He is speaking to someone who has quietly been doing the work he abandoned. And the unspoken tension grows because everyone knows what question has not yet been asked. And when it finally surfaces, it does not come as an accusation, it comes as a reality. What about your children? And this is the point where the story shifts, because this is the subject Cody has avoided, redirected, and reframed for years. But now it is standing in the center of the room, unavoidable, undeniable, and impossible to spin away. And the reason this moment holds so much weight is not because of what is said, but because of who is saying it. This is not a critic, this is not a commentator, this is someone who has been present for the moments Cody chose not to show up for, and the silence that follows speaks louder than any defense, because there is no script for this, no practiced response, no way to reposition himself as the misunderstood patriarch, and the audience feels it, because this is not about the past anymore. This is about the gap between who Cody claims to be and who his children experienced, and that gap has been filled by someone else, not through declarations, but through consistency and care. And the realization lands slowly and painfully that apologies cannot erase absence, and authority cannot replace presence. And this is where the apology tour stops being a redemption arc and starts revealing itself as something else entirely, a reckoning he did not prepare for. What makes this moment so powerful is that nothing about it is dramatic on the surface. There are no raised voices, no ultimatums, no emotional outbursts, and yet every second carries weight because it is built on years of documented patterns. Moments where children needed their father and were met with distance, rationalizations, or silence. Moments that cannot be rewritten with hindsight. And this is why David's role matters, not because he claims authority, but because he represents stability. And that contrast is impossible to ignore. He does not need to list failures. They already exist in the collective memory of viewers who watched a young daughter face surgery without her father present, who saw relationships strain and collapse under conditions that demanded loyalty without reciprocity. And what makes the tension unbearable is that Cody is being forced to see himself through a lens he cannot control. Because David does not speak from theory, he speaks from action, and every example of showing up becomes an unspoken indictment. And this is where the narrative truly unravels, because Cody has long positioned himself as the victim of misunderstanding, yet the consistency of estrangement across multiple relationships tells a different story, one that cannot be blamed on outsiders or timing or circumstance, and the audience feels the shift as excuses lose traction and accountability becomes unavoidable. And what is most striking is not resistance, but deflection. Subtle attempts to move the conversation away from the children, toward forgiveness, toward closure, toward the idea that time alone heals all wounds. But this is where the truth settles in, that healing without accountability is just avoidance, and forgiveness without repair is simply forgetting. And the presence of someone who has quietly filled the emotional gaps makes forgetting impossible, because the children have already experienced what consistency looks like, and they gravitate toward it naturally, not out of rebellion, but out of safety. And that is the quiet dismantling of the patriarchal structure that once demanded loyalty rather than earning it. And as viewers watch, they realize this is not about replacing a father, it is about redefining what exposing the difference between authority and care. And that realization lingers because it reframes everything that came before. The anger, the distance, the justifications, and the refusal to self-reflect. And the most unsettling part is that this reckoning is happening calmly, respectfully, and without spectacle, leaving nowhere to hide and no one else to blame. And as the conversation continues, the power dynamic shifts entirely because Cody is no longer the center of the story. The children are, and that is the one place his narrative cannot survive. And this is why the apology tour fails, not because apologies are meaningless, but because they arrive without transformation. And the audience understands that what they are witnessing is not reconciliation, but exposure. A slow, undeniable unveiling of what happens when words are used to avoid responsibility, and when presence speaks louder than promises. And the final realization settles in quietly, that this moment was never about forgiveness, it was about truth. And once truth enters the room, there is no script that can contain it. This was never just an apology, it was a mirror, and once that mirror was held up, the truth became impossible to ignore. Words could not undo absence, and authority could not replace consistency. What happened here changes how this story is seen moving forward, and the real question now is not what Cody will say next, but whether actions will finally follow, because the audience is watching, and so are the people who matter most.